Good Friday morning, Gallatin County friends. It is day 40. It is Friday. It's raining. Probably not going to be a very good day for you to go outside and play today. You'll probably be watching movies in your home, hopefully reading some books. But I know it's going to be cold all weekend as well. Guys, this is Mother's Day weekend. Make sure that you tell your moms that, or grandmothers, or any of the women that are in your life, happy Mother's Day. It's a very special weekend for all of the ladies who have children. Today I come to you with the book that I read on Move Up Day to the kids that I currently have in my class this year. This is a great book to encourage reading because honestly, when you read a book, you get to travel to places that you've never been. And especially this summer with the quarantine going on, if things don't get lifted, people are going to not get to go on those vacations. So, reading is a great way to travel to those destinations and still be able to take your mind somewhere else and refresh. So that's habit 7, basically, keeping your mind fresh and rejuvenating your soul and your spirit. So reading is a great way to sharpen the saw because it does take you to imaginary places sometimes, depending on what kind of book you choose. But this book is about a book where the characters come to life. This is a really fun book. This is called Miss Smith's Incredible Storybook. And it was written by Michael Garland and obviously illustrated by him as well because I do not see an illustrator name. But today's book is going to hit habit 1, be proactive, because in the story, the students in the class are not very proactive when they get their hands on the book. Habit 2, we're going to look at in a little bit different of a situation. Usually habit 2, we think of setting a goal and making a plan to get there. But habit 2 can also be looked at, because it's begin with the end in mind, it can be looked at as consequences for choices too. So every choice that you make in life either has a reward or a consequence. And you have to think ahead, think of the end before you make those choices. You know, is the end going to bring you a reward or is the end going to bring you a consequence? So in this book, the end brings a consequence for these students. Because they're not very proactive. So they don't get a reward, they end up with a consequence. So in a way, we're hitting habit 2. So habit 1, habit 2, habit 4, think win-win, because in this book, the kids obviously do not think win-win when they get their hands on this book. They're not thinking of the other classes in the school. They're not thinking of anybody else in the school at all. They're being kind of selfish. And when you're selfish, it's a win-lose because the other person is losing and you're winning. A win-win is where everybody is happy. And obviously habit 7, because it's using your imagination and this book is just fun to read. So let's dive right in. I don't want to wait any longer. Miss Smith's Incredible Storybook. Habits 1, 2, 4, and 7. It was the first day of school, and Zach was waiting for his teacher to arrive. Boring, boring, he thought. Why would this year be any different from the last one? Then the door swung open. Good morning, class. My name is Miss Smith, and I am your new teacher. Now, I'm going to show her to you. Look at her. How cool is she? She's got glasses and spiky hair and a leather jacket. She's quite cool. I think that's a class I would like to be in. Miss Smith seemed very different from Zach's other teachers, but the day went along like every other school day that Zach could ever remember until Miss Smith said it's story time. When she sat at her desk and started to read from the book she had brought with her, Zach could not believe his eyes. The storybook characters came to life and the classroom was swept up in a swashbuckling pirate tale. So as Miss Smith read, the characters jumped out of the book and came to life. How exciting. Zach and the rest of his class were right in the middle of the story. He could feel the breeze on his hair. He could hear the waves pounding on the side of the ship. And I'm going to pause right there, and I'm going to tell you that a good writer makes you feel like you are right there in the middle of the story, because they use words that help to paint the picture in your head. From then on, Zach couldn't wait to go to school. Every day there was a new story to look forward to. When Miss Smith finished reading, all the characters and adventures would whoosh back into the book. The secret to getting the characters to go back in the storybook was what? What did the author tell us had to happen to get those characters back in the book? Do you remember? It said when Miss Smith finished reading, all the characters and the adventures would whoosh back into the book. So you had to finish the story to get them to go back. On Friday, though, Principal Rittenrotten stood in front of the class instead of Miss Smith.
Miss Smith is stuck in traffic, so she asked me to read to you until she arrives, he announced.
Zach wondered what would happen next. Principal Rittenrotten started to read. Zach grinned when a princess leaped out of the book, followed closely by a fire-breathing dragon and a brave knight on his horse. So she trusted him to read her book. Principal Rittenrotten was so surprised that all he could do was scream and throw the book up in fright.
I'm going for help,
he called over his shoulder as he ran out the door. So he didn't finish the story. What's going to happen? Oh my goodness. There he goes. Now the kids know how to put the characters back. Let's see if they do it. Before Zach could think of anything to do, Sue Ann pounced on the storybook, but she didn't finish the dragon story. She started another story instead. The Princess, the Dragon, and the Knight did not return to the book, but the three bears and Goldilocks jumped out. Oh my. Freddie, the class clown, jumped out of his seat and tried to yank the book away. When Sue Ann let go, he tumbled backward and the book flew across the room, and the whole class laughed. Billy caught the book and started reading from another new story. Zach shook his head in amazement when the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat, and Alice popped out and joined the other characters in the room. Oh no. As the book passed from kid to kid, one character after another flew out of the pages, and the classroom was getting very crowded. This is trouble, Zach thought to himself. The chaos was beginning to spill out into the hallways. Why don't you just finish the story? Zach pleaded, but no one was listening. They were being very selfish. Each person wanted to read the book. And in the end, a consequence happened. They ended up with a room full of characters that needed to be put back. And it said that it was spilling out into the hallways. So that's why I said this was not a win-win. Think about the other classes that are going on in the hallway. I mean, when we go in the hallway, we tell you that you're supposed to be quiet. Why? Because there's other kids learning and we could disturb their class. Think about what's going on in this school. Miss Smith finally brought her car to a screeching stop in front of the school. Uh-oh, there seems to be a little problem, she said to herself as she raced inside. What do you think she is going to do to solve this problem? All good stories have characters and settings and problems and solutions. And we know that the problem in this story is that all the kids brought all the characters out. So let's see how this problem gets solved. What's the solution to the problem? Meanwhile, Zach was shouting, "We have to finish the story so the characters will go back into the book." But the storybook characters didn't want to go back. A tug of war began. Oh no, so now it's not just the students who are causing the problem, but look, all of the characters now have gotten out and they don't want to go back in the book. So they're doing tug of war. Tug of war is one of the games that we play at track and field day where one class gets one side of the rope and the other class gets the other side of the rope and they tug and somebody ends up winning. Miss Smith appeared in the doorway with one look. She let everyone know that she meant business. Even the dragon was suddenly silent. She does look quite serious. What did the illustrator do to our character, Miss Smith, to show how serious she was? Look at her again. Think about real life. Make a connection to somebody that you have seen in real life be serious. What did the illustrator do? Look at her legs, how she's standing. Look at her hands on her hips. Look at her facial expression. When someone looks like that, they mean business. Zach handed the book back to Miss Smith. She ruffled through the pages, adjusted her glasses, and she started to read. The class sat spellbound as she finished each story in turn, and that just means that they sat listening closely. With a swirl and a whoosh, one character after another disappeared into the book until the classroom was quiet and tidy again. Tidy means clean. Look, all the characters are going back in. Principal Rittenrotten and a team of firefighters skidded to a halt at the door just as Miss Smith closed the book. "May I help you, Principal Rittenrotten?" asked Miss Smith. But the principal couldn't seem to answer. He just stared at the quiet class with his mouth wide open. Miss Smith flashed a secret smile to her class. Zach smiled right back. Who would ever have guessed that reading could be so much fun? And reading is fun. It does take your mind to those faraway places. And look, she's holding her book tight. Not letting it out of her sight, but I want you to look behind the shelf. One of the characters did go back. Oh my goodness. If you were to write a part 2, what do you think would happen next? That's a great activity for you to do now that you've seen that one of the characters didn't go back. What would you say would happen in a part 2 of this book? Maybe that could be your activity today. Draw a picture of what you think could happen. Write a sentence to go with it. Guys, I want you to have a great weekend. Make sure you tell your moms and your grandmas and your aunts Happy Mother's Day because it's a special weekend. Stay warm, have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday. Monday is our last day of reading every single day. So guys, see you later. Bye.